Ever since the start of the animated series, The Simpsons, the production crew has always wanted to do a feature-length film based on the series. However, after several attempts, including an idea that ended up becoming the episode Camp Krusty, caused the film to be stuck in development hell, especially after the death of Phil Hartman in 1998. While official sources say that the film was taken out of development hell in 2001, where it was reported that the voice cast was signed on for the film and work was being made on a script, in actuality, the film was secretly restarted in 1999, a year after the wrestler Hartman's death. The film was forced back into production by executives at 20th Century Fox who wanted a theatrical release by at least late 2001 to early 2002, who were uncaring to the production crew and were somewhat still mourning Hartman's death. The cast and crew had essentially scrambled to make a nearly 2-hour film based on the show. However, the show staff were still not in the best mental state, especially the show creator Matt Groening. During production, some of the writers would report on Matt's ever-decreasing mental state. Some staff, including show writers Al Jean and James L. Brooks, would report on hearing Matt screaming in anger at the Fox executives over how the film was not ready to start production while everyone in the staff was still grieving Phil's death. The Fox executives, however, cared little about the well-being of the staff and only wanted basic results for the film's production. That seemed to be the final straw, as reportedly, Matt began to lock himself with some of the storyboard artists and a handful of animators in the storyboard room working on the film. On some nights, some of the graveyard shift crew could hear Matt screaming and yelling at the animators and storyboard artists, telling them that they needed to create test footage for the film to show the executives what the vision of the Simpsons film would be. All the while, crying and pleas for help came from the small crew that could be heard from behind the door. After about 4 weeks of being locked in, Matt then led a small group out of the room, while Matt had a distraught yet calm and triumphant look in his face. This did not faze the rest of the staff, considering whenever one of them tried to ask Matt what happened in that room, all Matt would say was to wait until they showed off the test footage and any storyboards to the Fox executives. About a month after the incident, Matt, Al, and James were all sitting in the studio theater, with several of the higher-ups from both the Fox television division and from 20th Century Fox preparing to watch the test footage and any storyboards done for the film. It was stated at least about 20 minutes of the film were ready to be presented, along with test footage, demonstrating the animation and art style of the film. Once the projectors began to start, the Fox executives all sat in anticipation for what the staff had cooked up to impress them. All the while, both Al and James looked at Matt with worry in their eyes, with Matt looking the most excited out of everyone in the room. The footage started with the test footage first. The footage started with Homer sleeping at his job, as usual for the show. However, alarms started going off, waking Homer up. Homer then realized that the nuclear reactor was going critical and melting down. Homer then started to panic and began pressing buttons and pulling levers, desperately trying to stop the meltdown. Some of the Fox executives started to notice that the test footage was based on the episode Homer Defined, where a similar scenario took place at the power plant, but one Fox exec noted that Homer was actually starting to cry and panic over the meltdown. Suddenly, Smithers, Mr. Burns' assistant, barged into the room, asking Homer what was going on. Homer, in a frantic sound of sobs and panic, tells Smithers that one of the core reactors was melting down. Smithers then tells Homer to shut it down immediately. Homer once again presses every button and pulling every lever. All the while, Smithers is yelling at him to stop the meltdown. As the footage went on, Homer's crying and frantic nature started to sound more realistic, almost as if Dan Castellaneta, Homer's voice actor, was being threatened at gunpoint, and Smithers' yelling became more and more serious, like as though Smithers' voice actor, Harry Shearer, was genuinely frustrated and angry over Homer's actions. As the scene got more real, one of the execs turned to Groening and asked if the footage was some kind of joke, only for a loud booming noise to come out of the speakers, and the screen bursting into a bright white light. After everyone, sans Groening, uncovered their ears and looked back at the screen carefully, they all saw what appeared to be stock footage of a nuclear test site, indicating that the power plant exploded and that Springfield had been destroyed in the explosion. Everyone in the room sat there in shock and awe, while Matt smiled, almost like a madman watching the destruction of a small country with total glee. Once the shock nuclear test footage was done, the screen faded to white and faded back to a now obliterated Springfield. The rest of the test footage was just a pan over the now destroyed Springfield, only to then fade into some of the skeletal remains of every Simpsons character that had appeared on the show, all while the only sound was a low, droning sound of wind. The test footage ended on the skeletal remains of the Simpsons themselves, sitting on the couch, displayed on the screen for almost 10 minutes, with text appearing at the end saying, "See you all in 2001-02. MG." When the lights came back on, everyone turned to Matt in a state of worry, all while Matt was grinning happily. When Matt asked them what they thought of the footage, all the executives left the room, all color drained from their faces. It was reported by several Simpsons crew members that after the storyboards were shown in a later date, all depicting some of the Simpsons cast dying in all sorts of messed up ways, the higher-ups at Fox announced the production of the film was to end immediately. This clearly was what Matt wanted, as after this event, the Simpsons film was shelved once more and no more was done after that. But as you all know, the Simpsons movie was eventually released in 2007 to both critical and financial praise. If you try to find this fabled test footage for an early attempt of a Simpsons film, I'm sorry to say, but only a handful of copies exist, mostly under the ownership of several former and current Fox executives, including a personal copy owned by Matt Groening himself. I don't even think Fox, or at the time of this writing Disney, will ever release the test footage to the public. There's an internet urban legend about the test footage was leaked by a disgruntled Fox employee as revenge for termination of his job. However, it's best not to take such rumors seriously, as some Simpsons animators and editors reported that every trace of the test footage was destroyed following the showing, outside of personal copies mentioned earlier. But there was one underlying thing about this event. It was stated a long time ago during production of the Simpsons movie that one of the original plotlines involved the power plant blowing up and the Simpsons trying to survive in a post-apocalyptic Springfield. It was stated by crew members that Matt wanted to use the test footage as the basis for the entire film. However, Fox shot that down almost immediately. However, it is rumored that a split second of the original test footage was placed somewhere in the film, as a tribute to one of the most disturbing things ever associated with The Simpsons.
In fear and surprise, as your eyes widen, your mouth goes dry with each battered breath. You try to scream, your mind begs to leave, glued to your computer screen. The killers they slash, the tapes burn and crash. The cartridge you bought will be your final haunt. The rituals of hate will seal your fate. The tears you shed will be from the fear-gripping horror-driven nightmarish gore-filled, terrorizing, hateful, burning, violent, rage-inducing, knife-slashing, blood-splattering, silent screams. Only time will tell if you will escape this online hell. Your horror-filled obsessions will come with its own regressions. Your pathetic screams will not be heeded in any way, because your nightmares will come